if each of you would just take 30 seconds to just tell us your name, what your latest book was, and what you've been doing the last 20 years, just so we can get familiar with you, and then I'll start questions. Joanna, why don't you start, since we missed you in the video?
Sure thing. My name is Joanna Malaczynski-Moore. I'm the author of the book Silent Winter, Our Chemical World and Chronic Illness. I have a background working in consumer products, ingredient consumer products, as an attorney, an entrepreneur, activist, and writer now. I also worked as a consultant, and so I had a lot of experience dealing with industry and government and, just issues from all sides. But I became motivated to write this book when I really became ill myself. I was really getting ill over the decades, not really realizing what was going on. And it became super obvious to me that my health was being impacted by the toxic chemicals in our environment. Some of it had to do with choices I made about where I chose to swim and things that I decided to do, and some things were out of my control. And I was motivated, I was inspired by Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, because she had started a short chapter about human health impacts. That was 60 years ago. But now we have 60 years of evidence of how toxic chemicals are affecting our health. And that was my intention in writing that book.
Thank you. Andre?
Okay, my name is Andre Loy. I'm an organic farmer, a very long-term organic farmer, but I'm also the current international director of Regeneration International. We are the international global organization for promoting regenerative agriculture. I've also an author of 3 books. The first one is called The Myths of Safe Pesticides, where I deconstruct the science that's put out to say that pesticides are safe, and clearly show that there is no peer-reviewed science that shows that the pesticides that we're using at the moment are safe for people. The next book I wrote was to talk specifically about the dangers of small amounts of pesticides and other chemicals for children, particularly the fetus and young children. Once again, how there is no evidence-based science to show that any of these chemicals are safe, and a lot of evidence-based science to show that the smallest amounts cause serious problems. And then my last book is called Growing Life, and it's about the paradigm change in agriculture to show how you can move away from toxic, environmentally destructive agriculture based on my 50 years of experience as a farmer, and also working in around 100 countries with agriculture. And that book's called Growing Life.
Julian, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'm Julian Cribb. I'm a science writer, been writing about science for nigh on 50 years. But about a quarter of a century ago, I started meeting a lot of depressed and frightened scientists as I was going around my job. And, they were just handling data every single day that was telling them that the world was coming apart in one way or another. I began paying attention to this, but at the very big scale. And I began to focus on the major problems, what it is that humans are doing to the planet, basically, that's making it uninhabitable. And there are 10 of these huge problems. We set up the Council for the Human Future to get focus, scientific focus, first of all, policy focus and public focus on what the 10 catastrophic threats are that humans are now facing, and what we can bloody well do about them, how we can fix them. So that is the main focus of my effort. My previous book was about the future of the world food supply, what sort of a food system we need to feed the world through the peak in human population till women can get the population down to a sustainable level. My latest book is Earth Detox, about the chemical poisoning of the planet. And the current one I'm working on is called How to Fix a Broken Planet. And it's a whole ream of good suggestions for what we can do to clean up the mess that we humans have created.
Great. Stephanie?
Yes, I'm Stephanie Seneff. I'm the author of this book, Toxic Legacy, which was published last June by Chelsea Green Publishers. Toxic Legacy, How the Weedkiller Glyphosate is Destroying Our Health and the Environment. And I like to see that everybody on this panel seems to be moving towards solutions, or maybe we're doing solutions from the beginning. But I am also a little tired of talking about how toxic we are. And it would be really great if I could start to figure out and learn about how people are finding solutions to this mess. And we really have to reach out to the general public and get them to be aware of the urgency of the situation, get them to be on board, and get them to start eating healthy, living healthy, and promoting pressure on the farmers to change the way they grow food. My interest was in autism, and I got really determined to figure out what was causing the autism epidemic in this country. I think it's a crisis. Now the estimates are like 1 in 37. I mean, the numbers keep going up and up and up. And I think that glyphosate is a major player. Of course, there's many, many other toxic exposures they have, but I really have singled out glyphosate as being special. It's the active ingredient in Roundup, considered to be perfectly safe by the government, unregulated, used pervasively on the food supply, and it's a slow kill, and it's causing all kinds of health problems, not just the autism.
Thank you. Ronnie?
Yes, well, I've been an activist since the 60s, and partly because I grew up in what's called Cancer Alley. I grew up in the petrochemical center of the U.S. in Southeast Texas on the Louisiana border. But I got radicalized through the civil rights movement, the anti-war movement, anti-nuclear movement, and I've been involved a long time in all these movements. Also, my grandparents were organic farmers in Southeast Texas, so I was able to spend a lot of time on an organic farm growing up on the weekends and summers. So my last 2 books in 2020 was Grassroots Rising, which is essentially a roadmap for how organic and regenerative agriculture and food and land use, along with alternative energy, can solve the climate crisis in the US and around the world. And then my 2021 book with Dr. Mercola was The Truth About COVID-19. And that's the first bestseller I've ever written, but it's also the first book I've ever written where there was not a single review because it was too controversial. And independent bookstores, which I've spent my whole life working with, none of them would sell the book. So that's been an interesting experience. But I like to say I spend half my time exposing the bad stuff. You know, we sue companies, we expose companies, do boycotts, protests, and so on. But the other half of my life in Regeneration International is the positive part, where at the moment we're just trying to identify the best practices around the world and figure out how these can be scaled up. So I've become a farmer. I direct a research farm in northern Minnesota and also one in north central Mexico. So very happy to be on this panel, and very happy to be a person working to bring the natural health movement, the food movement, the climate movement, the anti-war movement, and the justice movements together.
And Jeffrey?
Thank you. For 26 years, I've been focusing on exposing the health dangers of genetically engineered foods and Roundup, and also the corrupt regulatory process and the corrupt processes and lies that were dished out by Monsanto and other advocates. Since GMO 2.0 is on us with gene editing and gene drives, etc., we've pivoted at the Institute for Responsible Technology. Gene editing is so cheap and easy, you can get a do-it-yourself kit on Amazon for under $200. And it also is prone to side effects like all GMOs. So we're concerned that this generation could leave a corrupt and replaced nature for all future generations. So we understand that the most serious and dangerous kingdoms to genetically engineer are the microbes, the microbiome. So we have a program at protectnaturenow.com to protect the global microbiome. And if you go to Protect Nature Now, you can see my latest film called Don't Let the Gene Out of the Bottle. It's just 16 minutes. It's a wake-up call, and it's one of the existential threats that I hope Julian will add to his list to make 11.
Okay, very, very quickly, because I do think it's important. Can we bring up Joanna's website very quickly? Joanna, what is your website?
You can go to either joannamore.com or sensitivecanary.com. It'll take you to the same place. And I can just say briefly that while there are a lot of chronic illnesses that are caused by toxic chemical exposure, including from the chemicals on our food and contamination on our food, there's over 50 some, I think, that I just logged in researching my book, and I wasn't really trying. I was focusing on chronic fatigue and multiple chemical sensitivity, which is what I have when I started researching for my book. So that's where the sensitive canary comes from.
Okay, so if they want to get in touch with you, they go to your website and there's a contact to contact you and more information. Okay, great. Andre, what about your website? Can we bring up Andre's website? Which website?
I don't have one. The best one is international, Regeneration International, www.regenerationinternational.org.
Okay, regenerationinternational.org.
Yeah, and that people will then see what we are doing.
Okay, and what if they want to stay in touch with you? Is there something they should do here?
Yeah, you'll find my emails there, and my contact details are there.
And you take donations to support your work?
Certainly do. Very happy to take donations. All welcome.
Okay, great. And Julian, which website would be best for people to find you?
JulianCribb.net or humanfuture.org. So let me just share my screen. Oh, sorry, fell away. No, I don't know why it's dropping out.
Okay, we'll do it up here. So Human Future.
That's my personal website, which has a range of my publications. You can see there's a lot about food there. Been writing about food for heaven knows how long. They're all science-based, and there's a lot of blogs and so forth. But the one I would just like to show you is the Human Future website, humanfuture.org. Which basically talks about the risks that we're facing. The combination of these risks.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you. Dr. Seneff, where should they go to find, is there a website for you?
Yes, it's stephanieseneff.net. And that's my book, and you can go to the book portion of this and find out where to get my book. If you go into book there, you have places, that sell my book, Toxic Legacy. And then I have a blog, and I have a section with interviews and presentations, so that you can see the stuff at the top has various branches that, like the blog, for example. So there's, information, various kinds of information, interviews and blog presentations, publications.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Ronnie, which website is best for you?
www.organicconsumers.org or else regenerationinternational.org. Those are in English, and vorganica.org in Spanish.
So Ronnie, I'm very familiar with this website. You've been sending me stuff for years. It's a ton of fantastic, heroic work that this website has done that you started. How long has it been going on for?
We farmed OCA in 1998. And before that, from 92 to 98, we had a thing called the Pure Food Campaign. So we have archived several 100,000 articles over time on organicconsumers.org. And, you know, most of our readers, believe it or not, come through social media nowadays. So we've got 2 million followers for Millions Against Monsanto and Organic Consumers social media.
And how do you finance it? Is it through donations?
Yeah, we get small donations, and then we have a few major donors like Dr. Mercola and Abby Rockefeller and a few others. But most of our money has always come from grassroots donations of $50 or less, but we get a lot of them.
Okay, you guys are heroes. I've been following this long before The Real Truth was doing anything, and I felt very inspired that there was someone fighting for us. So thank you for creating Organic Consumers Association and all the people that worked with you. This is, you know, I mean, there's a lot of organizations. I just happen to be familiar with this one. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Jeffrey, which website?
responsibletechnology.org. That's the Institute for Responsible Technology. We have a regular newsletter, we have social media, and we also do accept donations as well.
And this has, if you scroll down, this has a lot of detail about GMOs. It describes it in lots of different ways to get your information right there. What are you looking for? It explains it, the basics, GMOs. It's really tells you everything you want to know to learn more about this. And Jeffrey, it seems like the one thing I've always felt is that you're not good at, because you're good at a lot of things, but you don't seem good at asking for donations. You don't seem to like to ask people. And I feel like I'd rather instead of giving to the Real Truths membership club, I'd rather they gave to this, because I feel if you stop doing this, you know, there's not that many people fighting for us. So it's very important that Institute for Responsible Technology thrives. So how can we help you? What exactly could all of us do to make sure that you have the resources to fight and do what you're doing?
Thank you, Stephen. You're right. I have been negligent in my life, and it shows. We've been operating on smoke and mirror budgets for a long time. There's a donate button at responsibletechnology.org, and I recommend that people make a recurring donation of any amount they can afford, so we can then plan for that with our budgets and our hiring and our projects. And with this Protect Nature Now campaign to protect the global microbiome, we're going to be needing to open offices around the world, create international treaties, national and local laws, a popular culture of products. It's going to be huge, and we're up against a very urgent and encroaching problem. So thank you, Stephen, for mentioning that. And I also encourage you to donate to the other nonprofits that are here as well.